Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Comic Source Podcast. Obviously, if you heard the intro, this is the Bad Idea Takeover. They've taken over once again. We had some new Bad Idea books drop just the other day, and I have one of the creators, one of the writers for one of the books that just was released. Joining me, Robert Venditti. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me on, Jace. I appreciate it. It's I don't know, man. I think it was like the beginning of Hawkman was last time we talked.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. But you kind of got your start. Really put your stamp on the comic industry with Valiant, and a lot of those guys have moved over to Bad Idea. So it's good to see you coming back together with all the guys like Dinesh and Warren. Does it feel like coming home in a way?
Yeah, for sure. When they reached out to me about Bad Idea, this would have been San Diego Comic-Con 2019, I guess, the last one there was, right?
Mm-hmm.
I met with Dinesh and Hunter Goranson there, and they kind of told me what they were cooking up, and Josh Dysart was there, and Matt Kent was there, and we were all kind of hanging out. And so it was like hanging out with old friends, and
Mm-hmm.
we were at Valiant together for about, I guess, 5 years maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a great time working with them all while I was there. I didn't get a chance ever to work with Carl Bowlers.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up at Valiant just after I had left, and I'm working with him now at Bad Idea. Other than that, the rest of the Bad Idea crew, Josh Johns, Adam Freeman, Warren Simons, of course, who, I was in the trenches with Warren for every single issue
Right.
that I wrote for Valiant, which I don't even know. It's got to be close to 80 issues or something. They're all over Bad Idea. So the opportunity to go work and sort of reteam with all those guys was something I didn't want to miss.
So beyond being able to just go back and make comics with your friend, because Dinesh just talked about that, right? I mean, these are great books, but you're having that much more fun because you're doing it with friends and guys that you respect their work.
Yeah.
How did you feel about when they started coming up with all these crazy ideas like, hey, it's going to be, only in comic shops, no trades, one per person? Did you know that stuff early on, and what were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I did. I knew they were going to have sort of an untraditional, publishing plan and marketing schedule and all those kinds of things. So they not all of the stuff, I think they developed more of it as they went along, and especially over the year that everything was sort of shut down. They were supposed to launch originally in, I think, May of 2020, and now here it is a year later. So I think they developed a little bit more of that stuff as they went along. But yeah, I knew a lot of it, and I mean, it's fine with me if that's the publishing plan that they want to do. I don't think a lot of people know this about me, but my roots in comics come from very small independent press. I started out working at Top Shelf in their warehouse packing boxes, and when I had started at Top Shelf, they hadn't published blankets yet. They were a very small independent publisher. They're much bigger now. They did blankets. They published Jeff Lemire's first books. They published Matt Kent's first books. They published Nate Powell's first books, Jeffrey Brown, like a whole slew of creators that are now, industry names. We're all doing, their first books at Top Shelf. And, those are just kind of my roots, So for me, if Bad Idea wanted to take sort of a more small press approach, that's fine with me. That's not something I look down on because that's where I come from,
Yeah, and we've talked a lot on the show about it's the fact that you guys are trying to get more traffic into comic shops. That's Dinesh himself said it. Hey, we'd like to do trades, but we know inevitably if we do trades, it's going to end up on Amazon. How does that help out a smaller comic shop? They want the foot traffic going into comic shops.
Yeah, trades can also be their own nightmare too. I mean, I remember at Top Shelf, we published the entire run of Eddie Campbell's Bacchus. I don't know if you've ever read Eddie Campbell's Bacchus, but I want to say there was 12 trade paperbacks of single issues that they had collected,
Mm-hmm.
And it was always, we got number 1 in stock, but now number 3's out. And we just reprinted number 5, but now number 2 is out, and it's just like, it's really hard to stay on top of. So I love the individual single issue comic as a format. My favorite all-time format is the mini comic. If you're familiar with those, you go to a small press convention, everybody makes them by hand. the whole thing becomes its own art piece, with
Yeah.
die cut covers or silk screens or any of these kinds of things. I mean, I have boxes full of those things that I've got over the years. I love that stuff. So for me, staying with a single issue format is fine. It's nothing that I would be prohibitive to me as a creator. It just, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of it, but I also, I've done original graphic novels as well. I've done novels. I do all sorts of formats, so I don't really uh, have just one that I would want to do or a favorite or whatever.
Right.
Whatever a publisher decides they want to do and try to put the stories out there, I'm always open to trying it out.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. If you print a bunch of graphic or a bunch of trade paperbacks, you gotta store them. It's that
Mhm.
initial outlay as well. You got all this money tied up in all this inventory.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
talking
Uh-oh.
out of print and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
so uh, it can get to be a handful.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that's great about being a small publisher is you guys, you're real nimble and you can do cool things. You don't have a lot of overhead, which leads me to I have to ask you about the Tankers promotional video.
Yeah, the Tankers video. So Brockton McKinney, who's a really good friend of mine, and he does a lot of the video assets for Bad Idea. He was somebody that I sort of introduced the company to in a way. They'd met him before at conventions and things, but when I knew they were looking to do video, I said, I got this buddy named Brock who I think would be a really good fit because Brock's background also was very small press minded, but he also used to be like the lead singer and the guitarist in a punk band. And so really kind of plugged into that sort of punk aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
and he and I were hanging out, writing. We get together about once a year. We'll spend about a week at my place, and we'll work on projects together, whatever. And we were talking about Tankers, and he was working on at the time the button videos. I was with him when he cut a lot of those, like the death of the button and all that stuff. I was with him when he cut a lot of those videos, watching over his shoulder as he edited them and things like that, just seeing how he did it. And I said, it'd be cool if we did like a promotional video for Tankers. And there's a place like an hour from me where you can rent a tank and like shoot a 30 cal machine gun or whatever. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, it's like right up the road or whatever. And so we just kind of put together the idea of this video of me as a method writer who has to really research his material. I have to live it before I can write it, and we pitched the idea to Bad Idea and they loved it. And, they upped it a little bit more and pushed it even a little bit harder. And it's just having some fun. I think that you've known me for a while. I generally tend to be more of a reserved, individual. I'm not somebody that you would expect to be doing something like that on video, but I don't know. It's just been such a bleak time that we've been in, and there's something to be said for just trying to have some fun, and when we posted that video, I think people were just so struck by the fact that even people who are like some of my best friends, they were like, I cannot believe that they convinced you to do this. And I was like, well, it was my idea, and we had a lot of fun with it. And the response to it was crazy. It's had 14,000 views on Twitter. I don't know how many views it's had anywhere else, but I swear to you, I don't meet a single person that hasn't seen that video, every single person has seen that video and they ask me about it, which is cool. I mean, that's what we wanted. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks like you were having a blast. I've always wondered about firing an automatic weapon like that. I mean, that thing looked like just.
Yeah, no, I squeezed off like the first burst and it definitely made me jump,
Yeah.
And then after I got like a good long burst and Brock was able to film it, I handed it over to the guy who worked there. And I was like, dude, go ahead and gun down all this stuff because I'm going to waste 1,000 bullets trying to track these dinosaurs, spraying this thing all over the place. So I definitely fired it, but I was no expert marksman, that's for sure.
Oh, that's cool. Well, let's talk specifically about Tankers itself, because the first issue, somebody was asking me the other day, well, Tankers, like, what is it? You read the first issue, like, what was your impression? And honestly, what I told him, I said, you know what? Balls out action. that's takers number one. I mean, you hit the ground running, and dinosaurs and machine guns and just all out kind of insanity. So is this a story that you've had in the back of your head for a while, and Bad Idea was the right place to tell it, or is it something you developed with them? Give us the background.
Yeah, no, we developed it together. A Bad Idea, again, getting back to the idea of just having some fun, like I just want to do a comic that'd be fun, and it's about something, it's got characters in it, and it's got like a meaning behind it if you go looking for those kinds of things. But I just wanted to do something that was really satirical, was fun, but wasn't like played for laughs,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Verhoeven was a big inspiration. I'm a huge fan of stuff like RoboCop and Total Recall and things like that. Just to really try to lean in to that kind of story. It's something that I hadn't done before. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to have a premise where, mercenaries in giant mech suits travel back in time and fight dinosaurs, like it needs to be a lot of action, And so early on, originally we were talking like it was going to be 4 24-page issues. And I said, I really think 3 32-page issues would be much better. It's the same page count overall, it's still 96 pages.
Right.
But that 32 pages really allows you to open up those action scenes and get some of those big visuals in there and let Juan Jose Reap really go to town, because he's the perfect person to draw this book. And I didn't know who was going to draw it when I was turning in my initial pitches, and sort of my plot breakdown and things. But once they told me Juan was going to be the artist, he's somebody I wanted to work for ever since we did 2 issues together on Eternal Warrior, Wrath of the Eternal Warrior over at Valiant. I'd always wanted to work with him again. He's super detailed. He's super good with action, but also the emotion in the faces,
Yep.
And when they told me that he was going to be the artist, I wrote the book specifically for him. It's got those big crazy beats like a guy, sawing a T-Rex in half vertically with a big chainsaw mech arm. But what really sells it to me is all the just utter absurdity that all these characters are spewing, and Juan's expressions are, these people are dead serious. Like at no point do they think that this is the most absurd concept ever, to go back in time for the sole purpose of diverting the comet so there'll be more dinosaurs and we'll have more oil. Like they are all 100% vested in that, and the emotion that he puts into the characters is really what I think lands the humor in the book. If it was, played for laughs or, bug eyes or whatever, I don't think the book would work as well. So thrilled to have him on it. And this is only the beginning. I mean, the next 2 issues just keep getting crazier and crazier. So.
Yeah, that surprised me a lot. So, because I discovered Juan's work when he worked with David Schulner on Clone at Skybound, and that's a very action-packed series as well. So you're right. His facial expressions, his detail, and the other thing he's really good at is the way he moves the camera around with depth of field when he's in his art. So I mean, you don't have to, visually, you'd never have time to take a break. So it's great.
Yeah, and it's a complicated book. I mean, it's a team of 6 soldiers, and they're fighting dinosaurs coming out every which way, and the storytelling is really fluid. You never get lost in it, And then you have Andrew Dalhouse coming in with the colors, and I mean, it's a hyper detailed book to have to color, But I mean, he's somebody I'd worked with before as well on the Flash when I was doing the Flash for DC, and just the 2 of them together are a great team. And I know the first issue just came out 3 days ago, but I'm super excited for people to read the next one. I'm just having a blast with it. I hope it comes across in the story, and I hope that people read it and kind of say that, I didn't know that Rob sort of had this gear. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of things that I'm able to do as a writer. I like to pride myself on being pretty versatile, and this just shows, sort of another arrow in my quiver,
Yeah, well, I would say, as a longtime fan and reader of your work, this does feel very different from anything you've done before. And to go back to something you said before about how serious these guys are taking this ridiculous idea, it's kind of like a train wreck. Like when you're reading it as a reader, well, this is not going to go well. You're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And sure enough, at the end of the issue, they come back to what, should be present time and place, and, the shit has hit the fan. So
yeah, you've got these hyper-evolved dinosaurs now. The idea was that the comet would go one more time around the universe or the galaxy or whatever, and then come back and hit us, and everything would be fine. But the comet never comes back. So the dinosaurs we have now are super hyper-evolved dinosaurs. And obviously, it's a time travel story, and we know that as soon as they go back in time, they're going to come back, and it ain't going to be the way they left it, right? That's every time travel story we've ever seen. But they go into it blindly, and they ignore that, right? Well, that's part of what the story's about. I mean, we all do this, right?
Yep.
Like, we all know where this is going to end up with fossil fuels and whatever, but we all still go to the gas tank every day. You know what I mean? So it's that sort of willful blindness for the sake of, maintaining. I'm not trying to preach to anybody or anything like that. I fly on planes. I drive a car. I'm as guilty as everybody else.
Yeah.
But I do hope we can find a better way at some point.
You would hope.
Before it's too late, and I hope it doesn't involve time travel.
Now, you mentioned Andrew Dalhouse, and like you said, his work on The Flash was exceptional. And I think he'd done a little bit of work at Valiant right toward the end there. But having him on the book, like, how much did you talk about what kind of tone you wanted to set with color, or did you just let him and Jose work that out? Was there any back and forth between you and Andrew?
No, not a lot. I think, Andrew's a pro, man. He's been doing this a long time, so I think he gets it. Most of what I do when it's color notes is, watching for continuity stuff. You know what I mean? It's a complicated book, and it's not like, it's Batman and Superman and Green Lantern that we all kind of know what they look like from experience. These are all new characters, So really, I go through and I look for continuity stuff. Does Boom Boom always have his red vest? Is Goldfarb always wearing his hat? That kind of stuff. But as far as the storytelling and the tone and things like that, that's just Andrew being Andrew. And he and Juan had worked together before, so I think that they'd already established that ability to work with each other.
Now, did you know a lot about dinosaurs? Like, were you a big dinosaur? Like, I loved dinosaurs when I was a kid. I kind of grew out of it. Or did you have to do some research? Or
I did absolutely zero research. I'm sure that a lot of these dinosaurs didn't exist at the same point in time. And I started to think in my head, because I'm a big research guy, right? We've talked before.
Yeah.
Like 6 days. I did huge amounts of research for that book. But for this, I was like, this thing is so absurd on its face. I'm not going to get mired down on whether or not T-Rexes really existed in prehistoric Texas or not. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I have no idea. Now, Louis LaRosa, on the other hand, is an actual dinosaur enthusiast and is like a dinosaur fine artist. You know what I mean? And he does the covers on the book. He does the art, and Laura Martin does the colors. And he told me that on Tankers #1, on that cover, every single species he drew actually existed in prehistoric Texas, so he did that kind of research and stuff, but I wasn't trying to do that. It's not a book that's meant to be taken for its scientific acumen. You know what I mean?
No, I'm glad. The reason I asked was I'm glad, because I know how you are. You went back in Hawkman and read like every thousands of appearances. Like, man, I hope you weren't burning the midnight oil trying to learn about dinosaurs.
No, I just kind of made it up as we went along. I didn't stop and think about the rules of time travel or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, just doing the story, and it's all, like I said, meant to be satirical and played completely straight, but the humor comes from how absurd it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it just came out this last Wednesday, so maybe you haven't had a lot of feedback yet, but on social media or from fans, have you heard anything, or maybe even from shops that people are digging it?
Yeah, everybody that's reached out to me on social media has liked it, but that doesn't mean there aren't people somewhere saying they hate it and not tagging me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really don't have any idea. It's not as like normally when something like this would happen, I'd be at a convention or whatever for a release, and you'd interact with a lot of people, and obviously the times are different right now. But I do know that the people that have read it, that have reached out to me, have really enjoyed it, and I know that apparently it's selling really well. A ton of stores have already sold out. And I was in North Carolina at Ultimate Comics for the release. I did a signing at their store, and I was driving home on Thursday. I stopped at a few stores between there and Atlanta. It's about a 4-hour ride, just to pop in and say hey to people. I hadn't done a store visit, hadn't done a convention since November of 2019 was the last time I'd done a convention, which is super rare for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the way back to my days at Top Shelf, I'm good for 10, 12 conventions and store visits a year. So I did not a single one in 2020. And, stopping into those stores, they had very limited copies, the racks were all out and they had like 2 or 3 that were under the counter kind of thing. So there wasn't even really much stuff for me to sign, which means that people are buying it up, which is great,
Well, let's talk a little bit about the B side. Bad Idea has these backup stories, which I think is great. You guys get a few pages to kind of in what you did with Tankers, which is just tell any kind of story you want. The B side, because it's the B side, because it's backup, you get to go even, stranger, even weirder kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in the B side, here you have this Abraham Lincoln made a deal with aliens type
yeah.
story.
So it's
Where
set
did that
2
come
days
from?
before Abraham Lincoln's assassination. The Civil War's over. The North has won. The country's going to come back together again, and he's on a coach ride, and it's just him and his driver, and they go out into the middle of the woods in the middle of the night, and an alien ship lands, and we find out that Abraham Lincoln's been meeting with aliens, and they basically said, we're going to build a maximum security prison for the universe's worst criminals here on Earth, in Wyoming, which wasn't even Wyoming at the point, but it's that point on the map.
Right.
And if you don't want to do that, then we're just going to obliterate you and do it anyways. And so he has to sign over the rights for this construction crew to begin working on the prison. So it's just a little 8-page story, When Bad Idea first told me that they were going to do these 8-page backups, I knew that the issues were already going to be at least 24 pages of story. I knew Tankers was going to be 32. And I was like, you guys sure do like making more work for yourselves. Nobody's going to complain if you give a 30-page comic out for $5.99 or 32-page comic for $5.99. Like, that's a great price in today's market, especially with the production values.
Yeah, and no ads.
Books, spot varnish covers and thick stock on the cover, thick stock on the paper. And they're like, we'll throw in an extra 8 pages too, So I love doing it. I love short stories. And who knows, maybe that 8-pager is only the beginning of something much bigger. We'll have to see and find out.
Yeah, that would be cool because I loved it. And at the same time, I went, okay, but what happens next? I mean, we know Abraham, like you said, he gets assassinated just a couple days later. And so then nobody knows he made this deal. So then they come and it could be a larger story. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the artist on that story is a new artist that I've never worked with before, named new to me, but named Jorge Monlongo, and he did everything, even the lettering. He did the art, colors, the letters, everything, and it's the designs. You can see how much love he puts into each individual character. I mean, his design for Lincoln is cool, but we all know how Lincoln looks. But the kind of stuff that he does with the aliens and the ships and all that kind of stuff, you can see how much attention he puts to it. And it's a really fun, really colorful style. So super happy to work with him on that.
Yeah, and it looked like you had a lot of fun doing that story too, in a different way than Tankers because it's not quite as absurd. Although I guess if you think about it, it's close.
Yeah, I could see how it's definitely not satirical or it's not as tongue in cheek,
right?
But yeah, it's definitely, again, it's just lighter material. It's stuff that I haven't really done much of in the past, and so it's kind of an opportunity to flex some different creative muscles and stretch my legs and all that.
Now, Tankers is like you said, 3 issues. Is it bi-monthly?
Yeah, so every other month. Yeah. I think because it's so much content, and also it allows Bad Idea to, put some other number ones in there,
Right.
So I think that's kind of what their pub plan is. But so the issue 2 will be out in June. Issue 3 will be out in August.
Yeah. And now, do you have other I mean, I know you can't say what they are, but do you have other properties beyond B-sides with Bad Idea that you're working on, or that we may see in the future?
I do, yeah. I'm already scripting 2 other miniseries for them, and right now we're working on another one, so that'll be my 4th one. And of course, as the world well knows, May 12th is going to be Hank Howard, the Pizza Detective,
Yeah.
which is another short story that I did for them that David Lapham drew. And it is a hard-boiled pizza noir, as I call it, about a corporate detective who works for a pizza chain, and there's been a crime at one of the locations, and he has to solve it.
Yeah, and listeners or viewers, if you're not familiar, this is a book that's going to be available only for 24 hours, so you got to get it on the day it comes out. Again, Bad Idea, just trying to drive that traffic to the shops.
May 12th, I believe it's only. Yeah, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's May 12th. It is on sale for only one day, and I believe it's only $1.
Yeah, that's right. $1. Yeah.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
We'll see how that works out. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and the fact that you're working with a legend like David Lapham, what was that like?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. I woke up one day and I sort of had the first few lines of the story in my head. It was hot, Florida hot, whatever. Because the story's set in Hollywood, Florida. Like this dopey detective isn't even in the good Hollywood, right? He's in like the other Hollywood. And I just wrote this 8-page story. Like by lunch, I had already done my revisions and my final draft and everything. And I emailed it to Warren Simons. And I said, man, you didn't ask for this. I'm sure you don't want it. Like here's like an 8-page story about a pizza detective, And he read it and he liked it. Again, it is also very absurd, but played completely deadly serious. This is the most serious case that's ever happened on planet Earth to this pizza detective. And when he called and told me that Lapham was going to draw it, it just blew my mind. Because again, me coming from those independent small press roots, and that guy's a legend. He doesn't often draw other people's things.
No, not anymore.
He's an excellent writer in his own right, and so I couldn't. And he leans all the way in. He's just an absolute genius, and he leans all the way in to the story, and it's in black and white, which is really kind of Lapham's forte as well. And yeah, I'm super, super excited for people to read that. Just again, to just see just some different stuff out there that I've done, that people haven't seen from me before.
Yeah, and when we had Dinesh and Warren on, they kind of mentioned that we might see something, and I was sort of intrigued. The first thing I thought of, there's that classic Seinfeld episode where there's that librarian detective, and it reminded me of that.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's hilarious. This guy.
Oh wait, I do. They chase Kramer down, don't they? Kramer's had like some books that have been overdue for like 30 years, something like that.
It was George, and the detective's name's Bookman.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Anyway, you don't really have anything kind of regular with DC going on right now. Is that have you kind of taken a break from doing stuff for them, or just?
Yeah, no, I don't have like a ongoing series with them right now, but I'm doing the Superman 78 series that they announced.
Right.
Wilfredo Torres is the artist on that. Jordi Belair is doing the colors. That's to say that's a dream project is almost a misnomer, because I never even thought a project like that would exist. I wouldn't even dream about it, but that's my Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman. I didn't grow up reading comics, and so Superman 2 was kind of my first introduction to the DC universe, superheroes in general. And Superman's always been my favorite character because of that. So for me to be able to tell stories set in the universe of the Donner films, it's a real high point for me creatively and in my career. And so I'm doing that. And, I've got some other things that I'm working on with DC as well, but it's just really, I love doing the DC stuff. That's one kind of creativity. You work in established continuities, established universes, there's rules for the characters, all those kinds of things. I love doing that kind of work. I've done it, I don't know, I've been with DC going on 9 years now, But I also do like doing stuff like Tankers or stuff that feels a little bit more creator-owned and independent, where you kind of make up your own rules.
Right.
That's a different sort of creativity. And so I'm thankful to be able to have a balance of those two things. And I hope to keep doing both for a long time. I love the DC universe. I love the characters. I have a lot of friends over there that I've built relationships with over the years. So, excited to still be doing stuff over there as well.
Yeah, well, I know you have a lot of fans that know, they didn't know your work at either from Top Shelf or from Valiant, and they, they learned about you either from Hawkman or from Flash or from your Green Lantern run or what have you. So I just want to make sure that all those guys are, hopefully they're coming over to check out Tankers and the Bad Idea stuff. But
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the hope, right? I mean, I know they're all very invested in the characters that they follow and those kinds of things, but you do hope that as a creator, they'll follow you. If they like the way I write Hawkman, that they would, take a shot on 6 days or on Tankers or something else like that. I don't know how much of that happens, but that's okay. I'm grateful for whatever readers I have and whatever books they want to read. But I do think that over my time at DC, especially from like the Rebirth period forward, with me doing Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, Freedom Fighters, and Hawkman, I think. Or at least I like to think that I sort of built up a name for myself as doing some quality work that people are really happy with, and Superman 78 is going to be the same. So.
Yeah, well, just speaking from what I know of other reviewers and press, yeah, you do have a name that is associated with very quality work, and people wonder, well, how come he doesn't have a regular book right now? So yeah, I've been check out Tankers, everybody. It's out there and it's great.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff happening in the background, So
yeah, and that's how it always is, right? As a freelancer, you always got to make sure you have multiple irons going, because you never know what's going to hit and when it's going to hit, and you don't want to have that.
Yeah, with everything that happened in 2020, it kind of threw a lot of things up in the air, and I have been writing Superman 78 for a while. It's just not out yet.
Right.
I mean? So from my perspective, I do have a steady gig.
Right.
It's not out yet, because things got delayed. And I mean, it was just a crazy year, So many things happened last year in the industry. And it's kind of remarkable, honestly, to be where we are now and to be in the shape that we're in. Things could have been, devastating.
Yeah.
My wife works at a hospital, and there were days she had 14 COVID patients, and they didn't even have masks yet and things like that, So it was definitely a scary time. And to be where we are now, I feel like, we came out of it better than it could have been,
Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, I wasn't sure if we have monthly comics. I mean, it all sort of felt like a house of cards when
or comic book stores or anything. So we're very blessed. I mean, we've all probably at this point almost everybody knows somebody that they lost to COVID. I've certainly had it in my family, and that's devastating in its own way. But we're fortunate, I think, to be where we are.
Well, as long as nobody sends any, militarized, mechanized warriors back to China a few years ago and tries to stop it and makes the world even worse, probably will.
I think we'll be all right. Yeah, we'll be all right.
Exactly. So, excuse me. Do you have any? How far along are you? You mentioned working on a couple more projects for Bad Idea. Any clue? I mean, they haven't even announced Wave 2, but do you know for sure you're going to have something in Wave 2 or Wave 3? Have you gotten to that?
I didn't know I was going to have something in Wave 1 until maybe a couple days before they announced Wave 1. They called me. I think Dinesh, he texted me, and he was like, "Hey man, just so you know that we're going to announce the pizza comic in 15 minutes." And I was like, "Cool." It's like you say, they're nimble.
Yeah.
They're such a small outfit, they can really be a speedboat, which is part of the fun. Valiant was like that a lot too, So yeah, I don't know what Wave 2 is. I I haven't talked about it with them. I don't know any of the books that are in Wave 2. I know a lot of the stuff that is being worked on, you know, in addition to the books that they've already announced, you know, Whalesville, Rocks and Mineral, A Lot, Sleigh Bells, Matt Kint's doing ENIAC, which had its second issue came out same day as Tankers #1. So in addition to all those, I know a lot of the other projects that are being worked on. I know who the creative teams are and things like that, but none of it's been announced yet. And I have no idea what will be a part of Wave 2 and what won't. So I wouldn't even dare to guess. I hope I'm in it because you know, every time I've got a book out on the stands, I'm happy. You know, the one thing about Tankers being bi-monthly that I was like, that means I got to go a whole month without having a book out from them.
Right.
You know? But now we're doing the pizza comics, so you never know what's going to happen. You know.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the other creators, and you know, like Joshua Dysart. I also know what it is, but they haven't announced it yet, or they might have given some hints. But when you talk about not only coming back to work with guys like Dinesh and Warren, but you're also getting to work alongside a lot of the colleagues that helped develop the universe over there at Valiant, like Matt Kint and Josh. Do you guys feed off each other? Do you call each other and talk about story or bounce ideas off each other?
No, we used to see each other a lot of conventions and stuff, and you know, I do miss, you know, the camaraderie of the convention circuit, and you know, being a writer, you know, your day at the office is all by yourself. You know what I mean? There's nobody you're talking to at the water cooler or anything like that. So the convention circuit is really good for that. So I haven't seen those guys or talked to them much, you know, except very briefly, you know, since then. But I know the kind of work that they do. I know how high quality it is, and it definitely makes you want to sit down and make sure you're putting out your best stuff, because you don't want to be, you know, the wobbly wheel on the car, you know. So, you know, I don't know if they feel that way, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get back to that. You know, we'll get back to the conventions, and because I love hanging out and seeing those guys as well. And you know, for somebody like yourself, like you said, you know, just talking story, you know, with those guys probably helps out a lot. And you mentioned The Lot also, Marguerite Bennett, and she's someone who hadn't done anything at Valiant, but she has done stuff at DC. Do you know Marguerite at all?
I don't know her real well. I've certainly been at retreats and seen her in things. She's enormously talented. You know, I can't even remember the first time I read one of her comics, but I do know it was in the New 52 era of DC. So, you know, we're going back quite a few years. And the strength of her voice just really came across to me, you know. So I haven't read any of The Lot, but I've read a lot of her work over the years, and I'm a huge fan of her. It's not easy to have a distinctive voice, you know, and she certainly does. So I'm really excited to see what that is, even though I'm not a horror person, you know, like horror like gives me terrible nightmares. Even like crappy horror, you know, like I had nightmares for like days after I saw like the Paris Hilton remake of House of Wax. You know what I mean? So like it doesn't even have to be good horror to freak me out. But I'll read The Lot anyways, and we'll see how many nights of sleep I lose.
It's that writer's imagination that takes the idea that you saw and runs with it.
Always been that way, yeah. Always been that way. I've never been bothered by, you know, action movie violence or anything like that. Something about horror, and especially anything that's like religious horror, you know, like The Exorcist. I saw The Exorcist when I was like 20 years old. And if I sit here and think about it right now hard enough, I'll have nightmares tonight. Like that. And I've never seen Rosemary's Baby. Like somebody tried to explain Rosemary's Baby to me once. I was like, nope. You know what I mean? Like, no, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to share my screen and we'll watch some Exorcist right now.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
All right, Rob. Well, it's been great talking to you. We're going to finish up with one last question here because I am curious. I'm going to try to get a little bit about one of the series that you're developing with Bad Idea Beyond Tankers. Because Tankers, like you said, it is something so different, so tongue-in-cheek, you know, like nothing you've ever done before. But I also know you love to do stories that you are really passionate about, and with 6 days even have a personal connection to. And I think there's such depth to those kind of stories. So might we expect something that's more personal and explores ideas that are important to you at Bad
Well, I
Idea?
don't know. Yeah, you mean like something nonfiction or something like that? I'm not
It
really
doesn't
sure.
even necessarily have to be nonfiction, but just, the first couple of series we've seen from Bad Idea are very traditionally comic. They're not necessarily a story where you're exploring a big idea that's more kind of personal. So I'm just wondering if we might see something like that from Bad Idea down the line, and if it might be something that you're working on, whether it's exploring something like, racism or some sort of other societal.
Yeah, the other two projects that I'm working on with them that are already up and running are much more sort of high concept in the way that Tankers is.
Gotcha.
I do have some ideas for some more personal projects, but I haven't really talked to Bad Idea about those yet. I mean, I've got, you know, Bad Idea has only been in, on the stands for 2 months.
Yeah.
And if you count the Hank Howard story, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 different, things that I'm working on with them, which is a lot,
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that I don't have some ideas for some other things too. But hopefully we're just at the beginning of this. I really like to put down roots at the places where I work. I was a Valiant for 6 years, maybe.
Mhm.
I've been at DC for going on 9 years. So I really like to put down roots the places that I go. I kind of take pride in the fact that if you look at my publishing history as a writer, I've been doing this since 2005, and I think I've only worked with 5 publishers.
Mhm.
But I've put out over 300 things.
Right.
So I really like to put down roots and spend time and develop relationships and kind of build where I'm at. And I'm doing these 5 things now, but hopefully that's just the beginning, and it'll lead to a whole lot more.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. And listeners, hopefully everybody got a chance to pick up Tankers. I will say that if your local Bad Idea store doesn't have any copies, put it out on Twitter. Just hit up at Bad Idea Hello and ask. And Dinesh is really good about getting back to people saying, hey, this store still has some, this store still has some.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of stores I think that do mail order too.
Exactly.
And I don't know if they're going to keep doing the gold button, but be like Jace.
Oh
Camp
man.
out and get yourself some of them gold buttons.
Yeah,
You're rolling in the dough over there,
that
man.
was that was kind of rough. I can't believe. So for those that
You
may
got 2
not
of each,
know,
right?
I managed to get 2 the first time, and I thought the second time there's no way. So my regular comic shop opens at 9 a.m. and then there's another comic shop that's about 20 minutes away that opens at 10. So the first time I wasn't necessarily surprised that when I got to the second place, there was nobody there. Because I showed up at my shop, I think at like 7 the first time. And somebody came and got in line about half an hour, 45 minutes later, and come to find out it's somebody from the Valiant fans boards. And because I didn't know what he was there for. There were other big books coming out that day.
Yeah.
But then when I asked him, oh, what are you looking for? He goes, oh yeah, the Bad Idea book. Then I knew, and I felt a little bad, but hey, I got there first. So I
Yeah.
thought with the way the button went the first time that people would for sure be out there in droves, trying to be first the second time. So I got to my local comic shop at midnight. I was there all night, and it's not in the best neighborhood, so that was a little scary.
Yeah.
The homeless guy coming up to me asking if he could borrow my cell phone. I'm like, I don't have one, it broke. So I thought for sure, I thought for sure I'm going to go to this other place that's 15 minutes away. There's for sure going to be somebody there, right? Nope, nobody in sight. So
I did have a lot of people that I saw, and I even have retailers, because I know a lot of retailers from when I worked at Top Shelf,
mhm.
Text me or whatever and tell me they have people waiting outside to get the button, which is cool. It's just another fun thing that Bad Idea is doing.
Yeah.
Doesn't change the comic one way or another if you get the button or you don't. Doesn't change the comic one way or another if you get a first printing or you get a not first printing.
Right.
But it's just some fun stuff that they're doing. Just trying to mix things up a little bit.
Well, yeah, especially the first time for the ENIAC button. Like because of the COVID pandemic, I really don't leave the house. That was the first time that I'd been out and felt like I was kind of on at a con, that sense of adventure. Like
Yeah,
driving
yeah.
from one shop, go to another shop, and kind of get that level of excitement. So yeah, it was really cool. But man, I don't know if I'm. They're doing them for the first five, and it would be nice to have a whole set, but we don't even know what they're for yet. Dinesh says, "Oh, you were really going to want this button," but knowing them, it could end up being like,
I don't even know what they're for yet. They don't tell me. You know what I mean? Who knows what they're cooking up?
Well, come to find out, you can trade in your tanker button, everybody, for Rob's car.
You can have it. My
Yeah.
hot rod. If anybody's seen the video that I posted, it's my hot rod. And you know what I feed my hot rod, Jace?
What's that?
Liquid dinosaurs.
That's right. Liquid dinosaurs. That's awesome. Well, we'll all learn what the button is for together, I suppose. And I hope everybody's picking up tankers and enjoying it. Any idea when the DC, when the Superman stuff will be out, so people can?
Yeah, it's July. They've already announced it. Yeah, I believe it's end of July is when it starts. They're doing Superman 78. They're also doing Batman 89.
89, yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, it's the Tim Burton Batman universe. So I believe they both launch in July. Original plan is for them to be digital first, with print issues starting in August and a hardcover collection, I believe, in October. But I don't know if that will change,
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm super excited about it. To be able to play in that universe, and Wilfredo Torres is just as huge a fan of that universe as I am. So it really is sort of a dream project for both of us, and we're both putting a lot of heart into it. And the gang's all there. So
Yeah.
Really, really excited to see what people think about that story.
Well, knowing you as long as I have, and knowing what a fan you are of that property, when I heard the announcement, I was just over the moon for you, man. So congrats on that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah.
So as we finish up here, any last thoughts for Bad Idea fans?
No, just, keep checking out the books. Got a lot of exciting stuff that they're doing. Basically 1 Wednesday a month is a Bad Idea Day. All the books will come out on the same day. I think it's the first Wednesday of the month. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think next up is ENIAC 3, along with the Whalesville and Rocks and Minerals double feature book that they're doing. So really that's Matt Kent Day is what that is.
Yeah.
And then I guess 1 week after that will be the Pizza Comic. So I will have something out in May. That's May 12th.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
And then Tankers 2 will be the first Wednesday in June. So
great. Well, remind everybody where they can find you online, Rob, because I know you really do like hearing from fans and engaging.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. It's just at Robert Venditti. You can give me a shout if you like my stuff. If you don't like my stuff, keep it to yourself. And I try to be pretty good on social about, replying to people and getting back to just about everybody. So, hopefully you enjoy the books, and let me know if you do.
All right. So thanks to Rob for taking the time to join us once again. It's always great to see you. I look forward to the return of conventions when we can see each other in person.
For sure.
And it's been, I can't even remember the last time I saw you.
It would have been July of 2019, I think.
Oh, yeah. San Diego 2019.
Yeah, I think you interviewed me about Hawkman or something at the DC booth.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, okay, listeners. Well, we hope you all enjoyed Tankers. Be sure you're reaching out to Rob on social media. There's links in the show notes to go and follow him if you don't do so already. And we want to thank you for supporting the Comic Source as always. We'll talk to you next time.